All the board members ready. We will call our May 9th Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Let the record state that all board members are here. Mr. Clay Forehand representing Madison, Mr. Jeff Black representing Western Caroline, Mr. Jeff Seeley representing Bowling Green. I'm Floyd Thomas representing Mattapanai, Nancy Long representing Port Royal, and Reggie Underwood representing Reedy Church. Having done that, I'm going to ask Mr. Seeley if he will give us the opening invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr.
Could
Seeley?
we all please stand? Heavenly Father, guide us in our duties and tasks this evening to do the best we can for those that live amongst us and around us. Bless those with their 100th year of birth, since birth, and 100 years young this evening. Look down on them and guide all of us so that we can all achieve the same goals that they have at 100 years. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Opening board comments. Before we get to those, it is the pleasure of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors to have two of our delegates in attendance, Mr. Buddy Fowler and Mr. Bobby Auroch. So welcome again to Caroline. It's good to see you, gentlemen. Mr. Forehand, I'll start with you for opening board comments.
I don't have any this evening, thank you.
Mr. Black.
Yeah, just really quickly, a couple things. I do want to thank Mr. Schiebel and the utilities. We had our first trash pickup on Saturday, the cleanup, the Caroline cleanup. I know there was quite a few number of groups that participated. There was Wrights Chapel on our side of the county. I know on Ladysmith Road, Wrights Chapel and Lake Landor teamed up, and we pretty much covered from Spotsylvania County line to Madison Elementary. And we got 39 bags of trash in that distance. So I also want to thank the schools and the sheriff's office for helping participate in that. I think that's going to be a event that grows as the years go on. And also we had several businesses that reached out and gave us prizes for people that participated. So thank you. The second thing is I've had a lot of over the last couple of days, and I've had several parents and teachers reach out to me about the school budget, and I've had some pretty good discussions in regards to that. And I'm one of 6, and I tell them that, and I pretty much tell them how I see things, and sometimes they'll agree with me, and sometimes they disagree with me. But I do hope that both boards are being held accountable in this budget process. The Board of Supervisors, I believe, and I may disagree with my fellow members up here, we as a board need to really look at what our priorities are, and I think we need to be held responsible for that. And I appreciate the people that are here tonight. But at the same time, for those of you that are here, I hope when the money does go, that you hold your board accountable for where that money goes, and if the money is given, that it gets to the teachers. So I think there's double priority and double accountability here. So there's responsibility on both sides. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just mention that I've had a couple of VDOT issues in the last 2 weeks, and I want to thank VDOT for one road repair where we were actually losing a road. And for those on Page Road that I've been down there many times, they're working on it. Hopefully we will get that resolved. So I am working with VDOT, and thanks to all the phone calls and the folks, VDOT's aware and they're working on it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Long?
I just wanted to bring up, I've had a couple of calls this week for people who live on the secondary roads, which a whole lot of us do in Caroline County, of increased traffic and increased speed. A lot of us who have grown up on these roads, we know where all the bad curves are, and we know when to slow down and hug that shoulder. but people who are new on those roads don't. So please be watchful. I've spoken to Sheriff Moser, and he's on top of that, and they're going to have some eyes out, but do be careful. I don't know if it's people who are taking shortcuts to try to avoid um, 17 or Route 1 or 95 or what they're trying to avoid, but do be careful when you're out driving on the weekends. We want everybody to stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be a little verbose this evening, and I don't apologize, but first of all, some of those signs I cannot see, and I wish, hopefully later on, maybe I do see some that teachers matter, but my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. But certainly, I would like an opportunity to see each sign. I don't know if it's possible for them to come forward, that we can see each sign and what it says, because it's not very legible or readable from where you are. So if you could come, please, before I make my comments, I appreciate it. Try to live on what we make. Thank you. Come walk in our shoes. Teachers change the world. Fair pay, teachers stay. The future needs us. We matter. Let's do what's right. Support those who support our future leaders. Stop, I can't see that one. If teachers just worked 8 hours, your students would get
No good papers, no school
no
grades,
graded papers,
no letters of recommendation.
no letters of recommendations, no IEPs, no concerts.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We need you, they need us. Thank you. We teach our children. You can't put students first if you put educators last. My job, well, your 3 jobs,
My 4th job.
your 4 jobs, your 4 jobs buys, I can't read the bottom if you could. Cleaning supplies. What is it? Gas for back school. Clothes and shoes. A what? A jug of milk. Got you. Okay. Eggs. Hand soap. Supplies for your students. Thank you. Be the solution, not the problem. You need to probably stay here. Our shoes are old because we can't afford new ones. Okay. Mine too. My second job paid for this sign. Okay, thank you. It's voting year. Doesn't matter to me.
Who does she belong to?
What am I worth to you?
Yours? Okay.
You're worth $1 million plus. Thank you. I wanted to do that, but that wasn't part of my comments because I do want you to know that you're heard and you're seen and you're respected. And my first comment, is there anybody on this board who believes that teachers don't deserve better pay? If so, would you raise your hand? If so, there's nobody here who believes that teachers don't deserve better pay. Okay, good. A teacher or a counselor or an employee of school sent me an email, and she listed some of the facts about the working conditions in the school in terms of the amount of work that they do and they have to do, and the discipline and some of the other issues. And I responded to that email, and my opening statement to that teacher or employee was that I appreciate your email. It went on to say, in my opinion, I believe the county affords enough money for teachers to get better pay. I went on to say that 70% of the revenue that comes in the county comes from the taxpayer. Of the 70% of revenue, of all the revenue that comes to the county, schools get 50% of that revenue. As I explained to that person, this board does not set your salary scale. We don't tell the board where and how to spend their money. We appropriate it based on those 6 categories. And they spend money within those 6 categories. As Ms. Stevens so noted last meeting, the majority of that money, I believe it's $32+ million, is in instruction line. That's where your salaries come from. The word on the street is that the school or the Board of Supervisors level funded schools 2 out of 3 years. Well, what does that really mean? It means that the county gave schools the same amount of money 2 out of the 3 years over the past 3 years. So the question is, why would the board do that? Knowing that things increase. So we did some research from the CARES Act money and from the ARPA money, American Family Rescue. The county received $11 million. We took 700,000 of that roughly, and was part of that went into our administrative office for a number of things, including all our COVID relief stuff and the mask and upgrading to make sure that we kept the distance between customers and our folks. We gave $1.7 million to fire and rescue. We gave public schools $1 million of the COVID money that we received for the county. We gave $1.4 million to public works. We gave $829,000 to the sheriff's office. We gave just barely $8,000 to the library. We put $4.6 million aside because we applied for a grant, the DADDY grant, to ensure that we have internet. That's what we did with our $11 million. Over that same period of time, schools received $13 million plus the $1 million that we gave them, for a total of $14,511,000. That's the reason that the budget was level funded. You had $14 million additional dollars. Let's talk about how that money is spent. Let's look at the sheriff's office. 2015, the sheriff had the same number of deputies, road deputies, that he has today. He increased school resource officers. And sheriff is here. If you think I'm lying, you ask him. Yet the population has increased from our 28,000 to over 30,000+. They're receiving more calls. There's more time on the road. They haven't increased. Fire and rescue. We gave Chief Loftus the okay to hire 19 new firefighters. Well, why is that? Well, Mr. Whiteman, how many homes have we built in the last 10 years? Close to 2,000. 2,000 new households in the county. And people expect us to respond. For the first time in the history of Caroline County, I believe, we are opening our first firehouse that is the county firehouse. The volunteer fire departments have saved us millions of dollars over the years that they have provided service, running ambulance calls, calls for fires, call for first responders, without pay. Now that we have grown, volunteerism has decreased, we have to maintain a level of service. And that's what we're doing. That's why we hired 19 firefighters. That's why we're building a new firehouse in Carmel Church. That's why we're going to build a new firehouse in Sparta. It's mandatory. It's needed for public safety. We just didn't say we're just going to hire 19 firefighters. It's needed. The county is growing. Let's talk about school enrollment. School enrollment in 2015 or 2010, thereabouts, was 4,300 students. You probably had 150 less employees, and I don't know how many less administrators. Let me tell you where your money is. There are 700 students in Caroline County who do not attend Caroline County Public Schools. So if your average cost per student or revenue is $10,000 per student, do the math. Do the math. 445 of those students are homeschool students. That's a lot of dollars. Well, why aren't those children here? If you talk to the homeschool parents say, I'm paying taxes twice. I'm paying for my child to go to a school, and 70 cents of my dollar goes to public schools, and I get no benefit. What do I tell those parents? Just so happens that Carmel School is in my district. What do I tell those parents? The question is, can we do better in spite of all? I believe we can. I still say we're administratively heavy, and I'm going to keep saying it till the cows come home, because I believe that. Prove me wrong. I worked in the middle school with Mr. Taylor. Ms. Carson, you worked in the elementary school. Think about what you had to work with and what you did, what you were able to do. And I know what you can do when you come together and you set yourself on a mission. But in my district, my kids go to Bowling Green Elementary, and I hear complaints about them not reading on grade level in math scores. That's our fault. We can blame it on COVID. We can blame it on whatever we want, but that's our mission, to overcome. That's our mission. Excuse me. We gave them 3 hours at our last meeting to talk. It's board comments. I think I have the right to. I understand. First 2 out of the way. I will get. Then you want to come back? I will come back. Okay. And I will finish my comments at the end of the meeting. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I just had a few quick comments. Of course, we all know last week was Kentucky Derby Day. This is the 50th anniversary of Secretariat, the horse that was born in Caroline. So we again recognize Caroline. I attended the school board meeting on April 17th briefly to commemorate the Madison and high school renovation projects, the plaques that the schools had made, where they put up now, or they're going to be put up soon. So that was a good thing. Chairman Kelly and I have been in contact to try to get another budget work session with the schools together. We were trying to do the 24th, but I think there's some conflict. So as soon as we can get that. Maybe we'll talk during the break. The other thing was that longtime employee, Mr. Leslie Scott, passed away this morning. He had worked in the planning office for years and years, and he was a valued employee and retired and just fell ill last few years. So we send our prayers and condolences to his family. And last but not least, I was probably going to save this for later, but it was something that one of the signs caught me again, and one of the teachers was saying they spend their own money for supplies and food and lunch, and a lot of teachers do that. And the board has had discussion, one of the ways we can directly affect teachers, but we're going to create a fund somehow and have it administrated. I think Mr. Seeley said Caroline's promise was a good one. We've got to work out the details. But we're going to create a fund so that there is some money for teachers to actually draw from that fund when they're buying things out of their own pockets so they could get reimbursed. I think it's a small way that we can affect teachers directly, and really I don't think it's fair for you to have to use your own money for crayons, construction paper, worse for snacks and things like that. I think we're all in this together. We're going to try to do what best we can to help you out. So we will publicize that as soon as we work out more of the details. I did talk to the county attorney, so it is legal. We can do that. That's the big thing, but it is a way to try to help and show we're all in this together, and we do care for what you do. So you can sit if you'd like, stand if you'd like. One of the teachers joked with me. I said, "Do you want me to run around and make you feel at home?" And she said, "Yeah, but I had to throw chairs too." So hopefully you get a chance to do more teaching and less disciplining. That's it for my comments. Again, thank you, board members, for your comments. Were there any addendums to the agenda as we move forward? If there are no addendums to the, excuse me, who was that? Oh, that is Mr. Underwood's thing? Okay, we're gonna add the Frog Level Fire Department. Right? That's it, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, it's already on the revised agenda.
On the revised one, thank you. Okay, so we're all set. And just so everybody knows, the county would be in terrible shape without Mr. Parton and Mrs. Hall. So thank you, Mrs. Hall, for taking care of that. But I want to get right to something that is really, really exciting to me. It is our presentations and reports. I was asked a couple of weeks ago by someone to give a county resolution for Miss Carrie Baker's 100th birthday at Macedonia Church a couple of weeks ago. I did that. I thought it was a great thing. And as I was coming out of the drugstore the other day, I ran into somebody who said, my father's going to be 100 next week. And as we were discussing that, I said, what a great idea. We can do that again. And I'm forgetting now, but I think it was the sheriff who I was talking to at another point in time. And he said, Mrs. Lord just had a 100th birthday celebration at the Madison Ruritan. And I said, well, it was great. We've got 2 people that are going to be 100 this week. So I'm going to ask you too, Mrs. Laura, if you could just wave your hand so people can see you. That's Mrs. Laura. Mr. Yancey, if you could just wave your hand. All right, we actually have 2 resolutions that we can read. We don't really have to read them. I think the important part is at the bottom. The resolutions list some things they did in their life, their accomplishments, how long they've been in Caroline. But the last part of the resolution, and I've got one for Mr. Yancey, Mr. Seeley has one for Mrs. Lohr. But the bottom line, the very last line says, now therefore be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby takes great pleasure in congratulating Mr. Lee Yancey and Mrs. Lucy Lore on their 100th birthdays and hereby declares May 11th, 2023 to
And May
be,
12th.
and May 12th, 2023. May 11th will be Lee Yancey Day in Caroline County. And May 12th will be Lucy Lore Day in Caroline County. We have actually named a day for you in celebration of your 100th anniversary. I think I remember from a couple weeks ago, you were born 30th President of the United States. Right. That's quite an achievement to think of what you've seen tonight. So I would like to one rousing hand for those folks. We're going to go down. We're going to all go down if you want to all go down. Can we take a picture with you folks? You stay there. We're going to come to you. And if you want, I need a hand mic. Do you have a hand mic? Working? Kind of working. giving them a second to finish. Casey, the next one will be up here. All right. We're going to move on to the next event we have, which is School Board Chairman Mr. Sean Kelly is going to come forward to recognize two people from the school system, Dr. Calveric, who is the superintendent, the Region 3 Superintendent of the Year, and Dr. Jawanda Rollins-Fells, Eastern Region School Board Member of the Year. Chairman Kelly, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Thomas, Vice Chair Cilly, and members of the board. I am Sean Kelly, Chairman of the Caroline County School Board. And before I begin, I would like to welcome to the podium Delegate Buddy Fowler, Delegate Bobby Orrock, and Mackenzie Heidelmark from the office of Congresswoman Abigail Spanberg. Thank you. Caroline County Schools would like to thank our delegates for attending and recognizing the services and leadership provided by tonight's honorees, not only to CCPS, but Caroline County. It is indeed something to celebrate as a collective community. The first resolution presented this evening is the Virginia Association of School Superintendents Region 3 Superintendent of the Year, Dr. Sarah Calveric. Please come forward. We are honored to have Delegate Buddy Fowler read the resolution to honor Dr. Calveric's accomplishments in the Commonwealth. Ms. Fowler?
Thank you. Thank you. Caroline County Resolution, Region 3 Superintendent of the Year 2023. Let me get a little closer. Whereas Dr. Sarah Calveric began her career in Hanover County in 1997 as a special education, general education teacher. She served an 11-year career as an elementary assistant principal and school principal. And whereas in 2013, Dr. Calveric was named the Director of Human Resources in Spotsylvania County Public Schools, where she worked collaboratively with colleagues to oversee leadership development, recruitment, retention, human relations, and employee wellness. And whereas in 2016, Dr. Sarah Calveric joined the Caroline County Public Schools as Assistant Superintendent of Instruction and was instrumental in the development of the School Division 5-year strategic plan, Pathways 2022, the CCPS profile of the K-12 graduate, professional learning communities, and numerous instructional initiatives such as increased school accreditation, the one-to-one Chromebook initiative, and the curricular audits. And whereas in 2018, Dr. Sarah Calveric was named Superintendent of Caroline County Public Schools, where she's been a strong force in operationalizing the division's core values, mission, and vision, further enhancing teaching and learning development relationships, promoting health and safety, investing in talent management are hallmarks of her past, current, and future work. Whereas to remain abreast of instructional leadership best practices, Dr. Calveric serves on the Virginia Association of Supervision and Curriculum Development Board, chairs the Virginia Association of School Superintendents Professional Development Committee, represents Region 3 on the Women Education Leaders in Virginia Board, and serves as an associate adjunct professor at the University of Richmond. Yeah, there you go. Whereas, to further advance PK-12 partnerships both locally and throughout the region, Dr. Calveric participates on numerous boards, including the Caroline County YMCA, Go Virginia Region 6 Council, Smart Beginnings, Workforce Now, Junior Achievement Central Virginia Advisory Board, and the UNW Education Advisory. Now, therefore, be it resolved that on Tuesday, May the 9th, 2023, Virginia Association of School Superintendents named Dr. Sarah Calveric as the Region 3 Superintendent of the Year for her transformational leadership, collaborative work style, and innovative best practices in public education. Thank you for everything you do. God bless you. And finally, just let me say before I hand this thing off to Bobby, I've had the privilege of touring the schools numerous times before Dr. Calveric and with Dr. Calveric. I'm extremely proud of her, what she's done here at Caroline County Public Schools. I think does a great job. It's been a real privilege to me to get to know her and all the fine people at Caroline County Public Schools while it's been my service to be represented Caroline. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. The second resolution that will be shared tonight is for the Virginia School Board Association Eastern Region School Board Member of the Year, Caroline's very own Dr. Jawanda Rollins Fells. Please come forward. We are honored to have Delegate Robert Brock introduce the resolution to honor Dr. Rollins Fells' accomplishments in Congress.
Thank you. This is indeed my honor. And I'm going to take some latitude here and ask if your husband could join me. And Mom.
All right,
Dr.
now,
Rollins
this is
Fells, I
PG,
do that
guys.
because, oops.
PG, guys.
Because for all your accomplishments, I know the support that they have provided through all the years, and I wanted them to be up here to share in this moment with you. Plus, there's 2 other votes. No, but anyway.
Bobby, hold on 1 second.
Oh, I missed one. That's indeed awesome. Any other family?
Oh, there is.
Yeah. Before I read the resolution, I just want to extend my personal appreciation to you and all the educators. As a retired educator myself, I know we didn't get into it for the money. We need to have a reasonable contribution to the world and society who, like yourself, have dedicated their lives to our young people. Caroline County Resolution, Eastern Region School Board Member of the Year 2022. Whereas Dr. Jawanda Rollins Fells began her 23-year journey in education in 2000 as a Caroline County public school teacher, and whereas Dr. Rollins Fells is a proud graduate of Hampton University and Capella University, where she has been equipped with multiple degrees that have provided her with an admirable understanding of people, processes, motivation, and transformation, and whereas Dr. Rollins Fells began her first term as a local elected official of the Caroline County School Board in 2014, and whereas Dr. Rollins Fells, during her tenure as chair of the Caroline County School Board, led the board, the Virginia School Board Association Master Board Certification, and VSBA School But on November 16th, 2022, Virginia School Board Association recognized Dr. Rollins Dr. Calvert, would you come forward, please? Mackenzie, are you going to make one? Okay.
Additionally, CCPS is honored to have two title mark representatives from the Office of Abigail Sandberg, who will present a letter on behalf of Congressman Sandberg. Caroline, supervisor, and our previous chair of the board, Dr. So, work that stands out and for the steadfast commitment of the staff and family of the Commonwealth.
Thank you for having me. My name is Mackenzie. I'm from Congresswoman Abigail Sandberg's office. This is Brett. We'll start with Dr. Calveric. As the U.S. Representative for Virginia's 7th Congressional District, I am pleased to offer you my congratulations on being named the Virginia Association of Schools Superintendents Region 3 schools. You have made a lasting impact on the lives of students that has not gone unnoticed. Your commitment to the academic success of future generations has served as a guiding model of success for educators across our Commonwealth. Your dedication to shared leadership has resulted in the measurable advancement of teaching and learning and improved dialogue between the school division and the broader community. Your efforts to continually improve the school division are admirable, and I thank you for working to make Caroline County Public Schools a pillar of excellence in the region. Thank you again for your dedication to your students and the community. I am pleased to join with the Caroline County Board of Supervisors in recognizing you for this high honor, and I look forward to future opportunities to thank you for your service to Caroline County Public Schools. Thank you so much. Okay, and again, she wishes she could be here for you as well. Dr. Rollins Fells, as the U.S. Representative for Virginia's 7th Congressional District, I am again pleased to offer you my high congratulations on being named the Eastern Region School Board Member of the Year in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Such a high honor. From your time serving the students as an elementary school teacher to your ventures into student excellency and empowerment, your dedication to future generations of children is clear. Your years of service on the Caroline County School Board and the Virginia School Board Association show the value that you place on ensuring the success of our students. This award is meant to recognize school board members around the state who have dedicated their career to the success of Virginia students, and I can't think of a more deserving recipient. Thank you again for your dedication to your students and the broader community, and I am pleased to join with the Caroline County Board of Supervisors in recognizing you for this high honor. And I look forward to future opportunities to thank you for your service to the Caroline County Public School District.
Now, if I could ask you to come forward, would you come up here, please? The two delegates, would you like to also come for a photo op? As long as we get more money for schools from the state?
We're working on that.
Mackenzie, I'm sorry. All right, I want to stand between you two ladies so nobody will see me.
You're gonna have your work cut out for you. You're almost gonna need to be on the other side of this to take the picture. I don't think we've got enough room. You can probably get around down there.
The lady in the front, I want to stand between them so nobody can see me. We're doing the side.
Oh, guys.
Yeah. We're gonna point this way. We're waiting for Casey.
See, I was gonna have cases on the other side.
I might be able to get everybody.
Are we gonna work?
Let's see. Miss Long, I
Do we
can't
wanna
see
switch
you.
this?
Probably.
Switch.
See, now people who see me back here with Jeff Black, they see me next to you.
I got everybody. All right, Mr. Forehand, just there you go. Perfect. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. Awesome. Got it.
Buddy, did I mention more money for schools? Did I mention more money for schools?
We're working on that. We got the best minds in the general city working on that.
We're gonna get something in June? Closed session? We're gonna go through the consent agenda.
You got one more broadband expansion.
Oh, I'm sorry. David? Oh, wow.
So we'll start out with the slogan of our Broadband Advisory Committee. Got broadband? Caroline is committed to making that answer yes. The Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development administers the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative, or VATI. VATI 2021. Learning from the VATI 2020 grant cycle, Caroline County and the 3 neighboring counties submitted a regional application. Caroline expanded its target to 3 areas of the county that had very few options for broadband: Port Royal, Balti, and Panola. These areas were an ideal area to build the backbone for future projects. At its June 23, 2020 meeting, the Caroline Board of Supervisors agreed to participate with 3 other counties, Matthews, Middlesex, and Lancaster, to apply for a regional grant that would include the construction of 49.65 miles of fiber in Caroline County to serve approximately 500 homes and businesses. The board also set aside from the CARES Act funding $614,000 to match BreezeLine's commitment to build its part of the multi-county project. The remaining $1.1 million required for this project was requested from VATI. In August 2020, Caroline County submitted the application as part of the 4-county project in partnership with Atlantic Broadband, which is now known as BreezeLine. VATI 2021 was a split award. Part of the grants were awarded in January, and the remaining grants were made in March of 2021. Caroline was awarded its VATI grant in March of 2021. By spring of 2022, construction was in full swing. Construction continued throughout 2022. By the end of January 2023, construction was completed thanks to the Caroline County Board of Supervisors, BreezeLine, and the Department of Housing and Community Development. The Caroline Broadband Advisory Committee is committed to help Caroline residents sign up for existing broadband options. As of tonight, 222 homes have internet thanks to this project that was just completed. State and federal assistance programs can help many connect to the internet at lower costs. The Affordable Connectivity Program is available to all households in Caroline County who house students from Caroline County Public Schools. Many other residents will also qualify. Details can be found at www.affordableconnectivity.gov. $30 per month credits are available to all who qualify. The April meeting of the Broadband Advisory Committee has an in-depth presentation of how to apply and qualify. Both BreezeLine and Comcast, the 2 main internet service providers in Caroline, have low-cost internet packages around the $30 rate for qualified subscribers, so don't miss out on this opportunity. A $30 credit on a $30 bill comes out to be free or close to it. Many wireless providers will also allow this credit to reduce the cost of your wireless broadband packages, so you would check with your individual providers to see if they participate with ACP. If you have questions, feel free to ask, and we will get you in contact with someone who can answer the questions and even help you go through the process. The link you see there is found on the broadband page of the Caroline County website under the inquiry form. So if you have questions, go to Caroline County's website, co.caroline.va.us, choose the broadband, and at the bottom of that page, there's an inquiry form. Just send that to us, and we will reach back out to you and make sure your questions are answered. The VATI 2023 project, if awarded, will bring an available connection to the remaining unserved households in Caroline. Announcements were originally anticipated by December of 2022. However, the additional funding provided by the federal government is causing a delay in the award of the 2023 grants. Stay tuned to the county website. That's www.co.caroline.va.us, or the official Caroline County YouTube channel for the most up-to-date and accurate information available.
Thank you. Any questions? Questions for Mr. Sadler? Mr. Sadler, I guess you can just confirm this, but it was our understanding we would know about the 2023 grant probably in January, February, but now we're told it'll be June.
We have not confirmed that it will be June, but we're hopeful that it will be.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Sadler. We will move to the consent agenda, items A through J. Any board member have anything they'd like to pull from the consent agenda? Hearing none, the chair will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Forehand. Motion's made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Forehand to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That passes unanimously. Mr. Whiteman has asked to be moved up. He is item number 12A. Proposed repairs and improvements to Frog Level Volunteer Fire Department. Mr. Whiteman.
Sir.
If you would, try not to use the mic.
Okay. I'll blow you off. It might blow Seeley.
Good to have you, Mr. Whiteman, and Mr. Cully and Chief Loftus.
In that I was on vacation the last few days of the week when this got added to the agenda, on Monday, we talked about it, and I've talked to a couple of you about it, but in looking at the spray foam, while that will work, it's only a Band-Aid. It'll work for about 10 years like the last spray foam we did. And I'm a firm believer that we ought to try to fix the problem, because if we know we're not moving out of that fire station anytime soon with the other fire stations we need to work on in the future, that we ought to look at doing the permanent repair, because if we have to spray foam again in 10 years, we'll probably have spent over the two spray foams the cost to do the permanent repair. So that's my recommendation, and that's really all I wanted to add. And then I don't think y'all are opposed to that.
Mr. Whiteman gave me the Reader's Digest version. If you'd like to do that again for the rest of the board, it's.
Yeah, real quick, like Mr. Cully said, the problem, and you'll see the photos you have, we have firefighters and paramedics living above the bay, which is an S2 use group and an R use group upstairs. So it was a pre-existing non-conforming condition to the building code, but by code, we're required to have 2 hours of separation from a parking garage to a residential space above that. So we can get that with the foam, but again, the foam goes away in 10 years. And what we're proposing is to have it redone floor joist wise to carry the floor load, insulated, which will help on the thermal envelope, and then to layer the entire underside of the subfloor with 2 layers of 5/8 FireX gypboard to give us that 2-hour rating and provide the protection for the firefighters and the paramedics that live up there. we understand, and Chief Loftus can talk more on this, ownership and all that. And although this cost is more, we think it's the right fix, both to protect our employees and to not have to revisit this in 8, 10 years.
The cost of the spray foam was about 60,000,
That's correct, sir.
and this project is about 100,000.
About 100, yes, sir.
So we would be spending more than half the money just to temporarily fix it with the spray foam.
And as Mr. Colley said, in 10 years, then we'll do it again at 70 or 80, and we'll be above the cost of doing it right now to where we'd be done.
And your recommendation is?
My recommendation is to do it right and go with the proposal that we have to get the 2-hour rated assembly, protect our folks, and do it right the first time.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Whiteman?
Is this an exposed ceiling right now?
Yes, it is,
Looking
sir.
up from the bays.
Yes, sir.
Looking up to the ceiling. Underside of the floor deck.
That underside of the habitable space.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It'll make it look better in there.
Got questions, Nancy?
Well, and the thermal envelope too for the comfort level and our energy costs down there.
And you're basically doubling up these joists, so carry the weight.
We're gonna sister the joist, carry the weight. We have to put some C-channel. We had an engineer come in, do an evaluation. We have to put some C-channel on the beams to carry that load. We have to wrap the beams with 5/8 gyp board for the protection of those. And we got to clean up the gas lines and the electrical lines. But all that is in the $100,000 proposal.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I looked at this. I talked to Mr. Cully about it. And I think, again, the board was smart for setting aside funds for emergency services. So we could, I know we put several $1 million, I think, in the fund. I think this would be an outstanding use of the fund since we do have career people there and all the money that's, like I said, been saved for taxpayers by volunteers. This really should be a no-brainer project. So I'm absolutely in favor of it, and I'm willing to make that motion if necessary.
Mrs. Seeley has a question.
I was going to go one step further, Mr. Underwood. I know that our policy, Mr. Cully, has been when we spend more than 50,000, we wanted to have an agreement with the station for the county to actually take ownership. But in this day and time of increased costs and the nonstop, I don't know that we want to try to get that kind of agreement at this point in time. And I'm not opposed to doing the work on that station since we use it nonstop for the volunteers, even though it's their station.
Right.
Right. Mr. Cully, is that pretty much cover? I mean, I've had.
Yes, I got in the sidebar, but yes, inflation has made that $50,000 number that we required of Ladysmith Fire back in 2014 is not remotely relevant today. That's probably easily would be 150 or even higher, the way costs have gone up, especially since 2020. So I don't think we need to hold them to that standard and say, hey, sign the deed and put us on the deed for 50 because we're going over 50 into 100. So I would recommend we just change that policy for inflation, which gets it up, $150,000 easily.
All right, you can bring that back to us later.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is a.
You make the motion.
Yeah. Then I'd like to, you want us to make that motion first to Chief Loftus, you want?
I just want to clarify where the funds are going to come from, either unencumbered fund balance or from the sale of the Frog Level Rescue Squad. Those are our two numbers.
Right.
How much are you in reserve?
Oh, well, not them. I don't have them.
He spent it all.
So we're probably
the money that you reserve for public safety.
Yes.
Does that answer that?
Yes. Reserve account for public safety.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So the money is there, so it would not have any impact on.
It has to be appropriated still.
We just want to make sure we know what's
So, so I guess my question is, Mr. Chairman, would you prefer to do the policy change and then vote on spending the funds, or spending the funds and then come back and do the policy?
We're gonna vote on the doing the project, and then Mr. Cully's gonna come back at a later date with the policy change.
Okay.
So we-
I'm in favor of, because waiting, I mean, materials, time, and all that,
Yeah, we want to do the project right now.
right now,
So the
correct.
motion is made by you,
And I'll
it's,
second it.
Mr. Forehand seconded it, right? Or was
I
it-
will second it, yeah. I seconded
last
I seconded the last one.
All right, I'm trying to move ahead. So, all right, Mr. Underwood makes the motion, Mr. Seeley and Mr. Forehand make the second. Is there any further discussion? The funds are gonna come from the reserve
Reserve
for
account that we set up for fire and rescue.
fire and rescue account. And that's part of your motion, that's part of your second.
Public safety and, we're taking it from the sheriff's office.
All righty, all, he had just walked in to hear that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
And because of the cost, we gotta go out with an RFP. We really, this is a real pain in the tail, getting people to bid on stuff. I luckily had a buddy who's a licensed contractor, but there's potential. We're gonna put it out for RFP about 3 weeks. We may get a lower cost, doubt it, but this won't start for
At least 3 weeks.
probably.
Okay.
Okay.
But you've got authority to go ahead and you've got a funding source, so.
I got a guy who we just got to get through that time.
Okay, and Mr. Cully will work on the policy change at a later date. You just bring that back to us. I think we're gonna work on that because of Chief Loftus' request in the agenda later on, so part of it we'll get together. You wanna go from 50 to 75? Wasn't that something that's?
Yeah, I think Ms. Smith is going to talk about that one, or Mr. Cully, but that applies to everybody.
Right.
That's, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Jim.
all right, Mr. McKenzie, how long is our closed meeting?
I don't think we only have 2 items to discuss. I think 15 minutes probably max.
All right, well, that gives us 15 minutes now.
I've got a motion.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move this board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the legal counsel and our contract exemptions of section 2.2-37118.8 and A.29 of the Code of Virginia for consultation with the county attorney and decisions with staff regarding the terms and scope of contracts and associated legal issues relating to the county water line expansion project in the Reedy Church District, where the discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiation strategy of the board, and the prospective business exemption of section 2.2-3711A5 of the Code of Virginia to discuss a prospective business or industry in the Port Royal District where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industries interested in locating or its facilities in Caroline County.
Is there a second to Mr. Seeley's motion?
Second.
Mr. Underwood and Mrs. Long make the second. Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We will be in closed meeting and return probably at about 7:35. Pam. False alarm. We're waiting for Mrs. Hall. All righty. All righty, now we'll reconvene from closed meeting. Is there a motion to come out of closed meeting?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mrs. Long to come out of closed meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously.
Certification, Mr. Chairman.
I was waiting for the noise to die down. And now we have certification for the closed meeting. Mr. Forehand, do you certify that only those things that we went into closed meeting were discussed?
I so certify.
Mr. Black?
I so certify.
Ms. Steele?
I so certify.
Ms. Long?
I so certify.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
And I as well certify. We will continue with our public comment section of the agenda. Public comments, again, reminding folks, are your opportunity to approach the board about any matter that was not a public hearing or is not a public hearing. So all of those who wish to speak on public comments, please come forward, state your name and your voting district. You do not have to give us your address. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, friends. Joanna Carter, Reedy Creek. I'm here on behalf of Lifeway Services and 10-7 Farms, following up on a request either for funds to assist our summer camps from the Board of Supervisors, or also in lieu of a letter of support or commitment detailing your support for what we do in order to be able to receive grants from other agencies. Many of the grants that we apply for require a partnership or a letter of support from the elected officials within the county, just to be able to include that into our package. I've brought with me detailed on our agenda for the summer camp, as well as our summer camp t-shirt, just to let you know what we're doing.
One t-shirt?
Yeah, well, it's a small and probably wouldn't fit anybody up there. You just pass it around.
My
But,
district won't fit me.
But that's why I'm here to answer any questions that you all may have in that regard.
All righty. I don't think we have any questions.
Okay.
Normally, we don't do question and answers, but I understand you've been in contact with Mr. Howard from Parks and Rec at the direction of Mr. Cully. Thank you, sir. So I believe we will get a recommendation from Mr. Cully soon as far as funding. Without a doubt, we'll be happy to give you a letter of recommendation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Is there anyone else who would like to speak as part of public comment? Please come forward and just state your voting district or your association.
Hello, my name is Amanda Martin Sharpetta. My voting district is Bowling Green. I'm here to bring attention to the need for the community. My kids are 6, 8, and 10. They do a lot with the Parks and Rec department. We enjoy soccer and the different things they offer during the summertime. They wanted to try softball and baseball, and the county does not offer that through Parks and Rec. And I have talked to some of the other parents who also really wish that we could have something for the children that is financially attainable for everyone, because when the kids played soccer with Parks and Rec, it was only $35. That was very easy for me, having 3 kids, to do that. The schedule was great. It was structured. The kids had fun, and they would really like to be able to try out softball and baseball. And I have been passing around a petition with other parents signing it so that you guys know how much of a need that is in the community for everyone. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention. I've been talking with Mr. Howard, and he said this was the best way to get my word out to the public so that everyone else knows. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin Sharpetta?
Yes.
Were you ever directed to the Caroline County Little League?
We are currently signed up for that, and the experience that we've had compared to the experience we had with Parks and Rec is the reason I'm here. We would really like that program brought through Parks and Rec. Because my children, the experience they had with that was way pleasurable than what we are going through right now. As other parents I've spoken to, they feel the same. And so they've shared that many over the years, one or two parents have spoken up, but it takes more than one to have a unified voice so that you know how much it is needed in the community. So, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again. Is there anyone else who would like to speak as part of the public comment section? Anyone else who would like to speak as part of the public comment? Last chance. Anyone who would like to speak as part of public comment, we'll declare public comment closed. Mr. Underwood, I thought you had some more comments as far as board comments, and I went to the presentation, so if you wanted to finish.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I do have several more comments, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to go back to my opening board comments. There was a comment that I made at a work session, I think to Mr. Seeley, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think, and my comment was that I would like to take $1 million out of administration, put it into, and put it into instruction for teacher pay raises. Somehow that comment got misconstrued, as Mr. Underwood said, reduce the school budget by $1 million. So I'm going to say misconstrued. So I hope that when you go back and look at the videotape, as I'm sure most of my comments will be scrutinized, you'll see that my comment was to put additional funds in instruction and remove it from administration, because I still believe we're administratively heavy. I received a newsletter that stated that this board didn't really care about teacher salaries because we didn't, something to the effect that we didn't appropriate another level of funds, and that Spotsylvania was going to raise taxes by 11 cents and Stafford was going to raise their taxes by 30 cents. And we didn't raise our taxes at all. Well, Spotsylvania approved a 3.4 cent tax increase and Stafford 11-cent increase. I think that's far from 30 and 11 cents.
8 cents.
What's that?
8 cents. They're saying 8 cents.
8 cents, I mean, excuse me. Stafford 8 cents versus the 30 cents. I do know that a couple of supervisors in Stafford said they wanted to raise 30 cents, but I think they were new to the board and didn't realize that the impact it would have on the citizens. So that was a comment that I think needs to be corrected. I talked to a middle school parent about middle school athletics, and I was shocked to find out that the middle school, which had a baseball team, didn't have baseballs and only had 2 bats. And I think the Rotans and another group stepped up and brought bats and baseballs. I believe, again, I think there's enough money in the budget, in the school budget, to maintain a proper athletic program where we don't have to have parents going out and organizations going out buying shoulder pads and helmets. Money that they raise for support and the boosters for those programs, that money I think should be spent to incentivize our kids and enrich their experience as athletes. Again, I just believe that I listened to Mr. Cully, I listened to the board members, and I know that we can't tell schools how to spend their money, but schools can't tell us how to take money and divvy it out to the different departments. We don't do it on a whim. We do it in meetings. We meet with Mr. Cully, and Mr. Cully makes some recommendations, and some we agree and some we don't. our fund balance increased to 24 million because, as I told you, $4.7 million we put in the fund balance from ARPA funds. I mean, from the ARPA funds for the broadband. We didn't just spend the money that was given to us on personnel. We said that would be a no-no. If you take the monies, that's one-time money, and you put it into personnel, that money's going to go away. And that day of reckoning is coming very soon. And now there's going to be a greater canyon or canvas because those folks were not in the budget. That was money that came from the ARPA and the stimulus money. That money will be gone next year. And I will be interested to see how that is filled. I believe it's to the tune of probably $2.3 million total. That's going to have to be backfilled somehow. So you can agree with how we appropriate money, and I'm going to disagree with you. That's the nature of the beast that we deal with. And Mr. Chairman, that's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. We will now move to the public hearing portion of the agenda. I believe this is Mr. Fincham. We've got an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County, Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your one public hearing tonight is TXT 04-2023, which is an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County, Virginia by amending Article 15, supplemental regulations, by repealing and replacing Section 1, which is the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area regulations. The purpose of the amendment is to amend the language related to the Chesapeake Bay Program Review. If the board recalls, we actually approved an amendment to the Chesapeake Bay regs 3 to 4 months ago. And a couple of additional modifications were identified by staff in conjunction with DEQ representatives. And the purpose of this is to go back and address those corrections, which are identified in blue additions in your ordinance, as well as several strike-throughs that DEQ subsequently determined we did not need certain language in our regulations. And with that, I'll address any questions the board may have.
Board members have any questions of Mr. Fincham before we open the public hearing?
We can ask after.
Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Fincham. We will declare the public hearing for text amendment 04-2023 to be open. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Anyone who would like to speak? Hearing none, the public hearing is declared closed. Board members at this time have any questions of Mr. Fincham again?
I have one.
Mrs. Long.
Yes, Mike, on 1 point, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Page 15 on B2, where it's saying that there's a condition here where it says the administrator may waive requirements as set forth in 1.7. And my concern there is making the decision by looking at surveys and aerial pictures. I just want to make sure that somewhere in this ordinance, there's a place that says that somebody's going to have boots on the ground at any of these facilities before a permit is issued. See where it says the administrator may waive this requirement as set forth in subsection 1.7?
It's page 15-80.
80.
Okay.
Sorry. If no potential on-site or adjacent RPA features are identified using available local information. It's just that stuff changes so fast, and it doesn't always make it online as fast as a bulldozer can come in and do something, or somebody could take down, forest a section of property next door. So I just want to make sure that no permits were going to be issued unless somebody actually has boots on the ground. That was my one concern.
You want to add language subject to site determination?
Or site review.
On-site determination?
On-site, there you go. That would make me feel better, thank you.
Okay.
That's not considered a substantial change?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Seeley has a question.
Page 15-81, section 132.
Yes, sir.
It's the resource management area, or is that still considered for us resource sensitive area?
No, we have three resources. You have the resource protection area, which is the wetlands and other areas contiguous to a perennial stream. Okay, those are your most sensitive features that are specifically field surveyed to identify those boundaries. So, for example, with a development, when a site plan comes in where there are these resource protection areas, they have to do a perenniality study of the stream and identify any wetlands based upon that perenniality study. That's your RPA, your most restrictive designation. The resource management area is then a distance of 300 feet or more adjacent to that. That's where you would find, for example, steep slopes, highly erodible soils, or other site characteristics that, if improperly developed, might adversely affect the RPA. These designations are not changing from what's already been identified through the mapping that the county did, I think it was 2016.
Okay.
Now, the resource sensitive area that you were discussing is actually the land use designation up in the Route 17 corridor. That's an overlay district separate from Chesbay.
Okay, so they're not related.
They're not related, no, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Fincham, did that footage used to be 200 feet? Do you remember?
No, ma'am. 300 feet is consistent with the previous regs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Fincham at this time? If not, a motion would be in order.
I move that we accept text amendment 04, 2023.
Second.
Is there a second? Mr. Black makes the motion to approve text amendment 0423. Mrs. Long makes a second. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. With the amendment made by Mrs. Long. Thank you again, Mrs. Hall. That motion carries unanimously. So thank you, Mr. Fincham. You might as well stay there. Agenda item number 4 is the first reading of an ordinance for the zoning ordinance to development standards for rural resorts. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a continuation of the first reading from your last meeting. If you will recall, we brought forward this requested text amendment, which would reduce the minimum acreage requirement for a rural resort from 200 acres to 150 acres. There was some question about the specific project that was driving this request, which is off of Devil's Three Jump Road. However, if the board amends the ordinance, it would apply to any similarly situated properties throughout the county and not specific to this one application. And staff is here just seeking additional direction from the board as to how you want to proceed.
Mr. Seeley has a question. Mr. Seeley?
You know, when we talked about rooms before, nowhere does it list the length of stay, how that's going to be recorded. And it seems we did this way back in another project when I was on the board, and there were a whole list of what the rooms could be used for, how long they could be occupied, recordation of those rooms being used, that being available for inspection. And I don't, when I see this many rooms someplace, to me, it just doesn't, there's something not, we're missing a whole lot of what needs to be in here to have something of this size someplace.
Yeah. I don't think these room numbers have changed except for the acreage requirement for the 25 units.
But in revisiting, we visited this for another organization 5, 6, 7 years ago. And we had stipulations about signing in, signing out, how long they could stay.
I think those were actual conditions related to the use permit, if I recall.
Yeah, I think he's right.
We've had a couple of those where we had.
Because I am just not comfortable saying if you have 150 acres, you can have 25 rooms built on your property. We'll get a special exception for a rural resort. If you got 25 rooms, there needs to be more to this than just that. And I'm sorry I didn't pick up on this last time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking at something else which triggered my memory on what we'd actually done. And those may have been conditions.
Yes, sir.
But there is nothing here that, that prohibits this from being just the rural resort. It's
Right.
just coming to stay in a room.
Right. I think the way we've handled it before, these are just, you have your general standards for special exception permits. And then in a lot of cases like this, we have more defined or specific standards for a particular use. And then even on top of that, the board has the ability to place conditions on the use permit that it deems necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And that's where I think those conditions came from. My suggestion would be, if in fact you would like to revisit this issue, then I think the appropriate action would be to refer it back to the Planning Commission and ask that they look at developing some more standards related to occupancy.
Because we don't even have the size of the room in here. I mean, there should be some parameters. To me, this is just not specific enough. And with the issues that we've had in the past, my personal opinion is that this needs to be a lot tighter. My personal opinion.
Fine. Mr. Underwood has a question.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Fincham, you've looked at, obviously, this text amendment. Are there any similarities between what other counties may have in place that we could possibly model some of the things that Mr. Seeley's talking about to ensure that we don't open up Pandora's box?
Right, understood. Certainly we can look to some of our more urbanized localities. Loudoun County is a good example. Albemarle County is a good example that we could look at to see what jurisdictions with similar types of uses. We've actually looked at those localities for some guidance in previous situations.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there are other stipulations that will keep us out of harm's way should something occur that we didn't look at, we possibly need to include in this text amendment. So I think it would be wise to go back to the Planning Commission with a more in-depth look at how we can prevent ourselves from creating an issue led down the road.
Okay.
Mr. Finch, Ms. Long has another question.
No,
I'm sorry.
I was going to make a motion, but please go ahead,
Oh,
Mr.
Mr. Forehand?
I mean, there's the campground, that's an entirely separate issue. I mean, this is like if I wanted to have like a dude ranch or some outdoorsy facility and I had 250 acres and wanted to put however many were allowed, I could put cabins on my property and like what's all over AP Hill right now.
Yes and no.
Okay.
We have regulations that address that as well.
Right.
Under the special events facility. So it's not a neat, yes, you can do that. It really depends upon the other standards we have in the ordinance and how it's addressed.
Okay. But this specifically is something like that. If I wanted to have cabins on my large parcel of land, maybe
it would have to be under the auspices of a use such as this.
Right. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. That's fine. I was just struggling to find other scenarios where that would even be in play, I guess.
I want to send this back to plan.
So that's all. Unless it was, I mean, therapeutic facility would be a different set of rules anyway. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. Okay.
Ms. Long?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we send this back to the Planning Commission. It sounds like this ordinance has not been looked at for a while. Could use some updating before we all make sure we're not jumping ahead of things. So that would be my motion, that we refer it back to the Planning Commission.
I'll second. Motion's made by Mrs. Long, seconded by Mr. Underwood to refer text amendment 02-2023 back to the Planning Commission. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 5, now new business. Mr. Hughes wants us to discuss a possible work session for county transportation planning.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is a discussion to talk about holding a work session to discuss transportation planning. Proposed topics would include projects, priorities, studies, plans, funding options, and alternative modes of transportation. The work session would be supported by county and VDOT staff and potentially staff from, or presentation possibly from the VRE staff, in helping us developing a county comprehensive transportation plan. Prior to the work session, we would ask the board members to put together your individual list of potential projects to be considered and prioritized as a part of that plan in order to help us move forward and create a prioritization list so that we can essentially eat the elephant one bite at a time and be consistent and move forward through those road projects as they are prioritized. As a part of that prioritization, we could talk about this more in the work session, but that list would be broken up into 2 sets of road projects. Those projects that are in the more rural portions of the county, and then those projects that are in the more suburbanized portion of the county, so to speak, where there are higher traffic counts. To do that, or in doing that, this would give us an opportunity to investigate funding options that may be smart scale, revenue sharing, or other state or federal sources of funding. And as I noted, as part of that, we would discuss alternative modes of transportation. Today, VDOT and county staff kicked off the Route 1 corridor study, and that study is going to be done in 3 phases. Phase 1 is underway right now, which is the data collection by VDOT and the consultants at JMT. They will collect data and, put together a framework and scope of the study. Phase 2 is the development of alternatives for improvements, and that should be completed by the end of the summer to the end of the year. Phase 3 is the development of cost estimates for the identified alternatives and should be completed in early 2024. Like I said, the study will look at alternative modes of transit, bike and pedestrian accommodations, as well as intersection improvements. And the recommendations that come out of a pipeline study such as this generally score very well in the smart scale funding process. So it should be noted that VDOT wanted to emphasize that the Route 1 corridor should be preserved as a relief corridor and maintain its ability to provide relief in case there's an accident on 95. So one of the things that you would expect to see out of a study like this are alternative intersection improvements, and not necessarily a signal light at every intersection where there may potentially be a elevated crash volume. You may look to see some alternative solutions there. So there are two opportunities for public comment as a part of this pipeline study. The first is going to be in an online form, and VDOT asked today for some guidance on the possibility of having an in-person public comment period, and we did suggest to them that they should schedule the consideration of a public comment period, in-person comment period, so people can come out and actually physically see and have conversation with VDOT and JMT representatives. So we feel like that's important, given the rural nature of our county and the fact that everyone doesn't have access to the internet. And so there were some other suggestions for reaching the public, but that's something that I would suggest that we provide them with the guidance to hold at least one in-person comment period. So what we get out of the pipeline study is the projects that are identified that will be smart scale ready. So essentially through that study, these projects that are identified and chosen would be prepared to go into the smart scale application process, with much of the work being done by the consultants. So round 5 of smart scale has closed. The CTB will make those decisions and announcements in June. So we are technically, round 6 has started, and that commences with the pipeline studies that are occurring across the Commonwealth. So, you know, wherever they're happening, this is part of the round 6 kickoff. The pre-application deadline is March 1 of 2024, and the full application is August 1 of 2024. So VDOT assistance for the project not in the pipeline is going to be limited. And so since we have limited resources, then I think we have less opportunity to propose and introduce smart scale applications that are not necessarily part of the pipeline study. Doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means that absent of some significant leverage funding, those projects would probably be less apt to score high on the in that process. So we will work to develop an agenda. And like I said, this is intended to be a kickoff or a comprehensive look at transportation planning in Caroline County. And I would hope that we would be able to spend a couple hours to do this. So the target date I have is June 27th, which would be the date of the second meeting in June for the board if we were to have one. Right now there's only one scheduled, but that would be my target date since it's a regular meeting night. And
Mr. Chairman.
Was that Mr. Forehand or Mr. Black? Mr. Black?
Yeah. Just thank you for this. Just a couple of things. As I think Mr. Seeley knows from the GWRC, Ms. Long has been on GWRC in the past. Years and years ago when Smart Scale first came out, we had a strategy here in Caroline, and that's why we got the Ladysmith Road project, where other counties like Stafford and Spotsylvania, they were taking the kind of the shotgun approach, and they were going to put in as many projects as possible and just hope something stuck. And we took the approach, the rifle approach, where we were just going to kind of like be very specific with one project. And that worked out very well for us on the Ladysmith Road project, because it got us the 20 of the $26 million for that project that now we're seeing in fruition being built right here on Ladysmith. I think over the years, the way that VDOT has handled it has changed. I know the scoring has changed. They've been big on getting sidewalks. And in the last round, some of the projects that I think some of the counties, for example, Stafford and Spotsylvania, I think they got some projects funded that they didn't expect to. And I think you could probably attest to more than that, and GWRC as well. There's a gentleman at GWRC, Mr. Olis. He's actually was in like the Congress in South Africa for a while. Very, very intelligent graduate of MIT. And he is like, I would really, really like him to get down to that meeting if we have one, because he has been, Mr. Seeley and I had a meeting with him, I think last year, wasn't it? Yeah. And he, as soon as he came in and took the job, he wanted input from us, like what is a priority for us? And there's a lot of information that's out there as elected officials. I think he is a plethora of knowledge of money that's out there that we could get for the county. And some of it's just, I mean, obviously some of it's, we have to put in money and some of it we don't, and to have 0 projects is just in the region. I don't think it makes us, in the last round, we had no projects. We definitely have road issues, all of us. I know, Mr. Underwood, you definitely have, like, one of the top projects is Dry Bridge. I mean, I think we can all agree that Dry Bridge Road is a huge issue, but there are other places around the county that we definitely need to look at. And I think this would be very beneficial to us to have this meeting and invite him down to see what funding sources are available. Because it's not just, I mean, it would be very good for Smart Scale, but it would also be good for the other monies that are out there. What was Mr. Fincham, we just put in money, remember we put in like, what was the thing we put in a couple grand for at the beginning of a meeting when Mr. Underwood was chair last year? We had to put it on the agenda, and it's a funding source that's available to us through GWRC, and they're doing a lot of stuff with like sidewalks, and I think that could be useful near some of our schools. So I think we really need to have kind of a comprehensive and crosswalks and so forth, comprehensive look at some of this stuff, because I think there's money out there that we may be missing. So that's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Did you have a question, Ms.
Yes, yes, I do. Mr. Hughes, the meeting is fine. I'll fill in. I'd love to be part of it. But my question is the Route 1 study, can we put comments in now? Because they got to hit Page Road intersection. If they don't do something with that one, I know they're looking at it.
I saw poles going up and power being
They're going
run.
to put flashing lights, but with this study, could we actually get like some turn lanes and vision improvements and
that's
stuff?
part of I believe that's already part of the study that they're doing. Is that they're looking at they're going to put the flashing lights, but as far as the Route 1 study on Page Road, they're looking at long term, and I think that Mr. Bates had said that we need to look at that as funding for a Smart Scale, because VDOT is going to put in the flashing lights for us now as a temporary thing. But they recognize that intersection at Page Road and Route 1 is very, very dangerous.
Right, and that's what I want to make sure we get that one in and online for this meeting that we're going to have. And I personally prefer in person to online, because you can look at the graphs, you can open it up to the public, whatever you want to do. But yeah, I'm all in favor of moving forward. I think we've been busy with other things and we've just sort of gotten behind on transportation a little bit.
All right. Well, Page Road is a part of the study, just to confirm.
I don't know how I feel about VRE, but you and I can talk about that later.
And Mr. Hughes, the 27th is not going to work. We have a meeting with Farm Bureau on the 27th.
Okay.
So as we go through the calendar, we'll try to get a date that the board can agree on. If not, we'll, work on it at our next meeting.
Okay.
But we all understand how important it is.
Well, then it must not be our regular meeting night, is it?
No, it's Tuesday. We didn't have a meeting in the second.
Okay. It's the second Tuesday.
Or the fourth Tuesday in June. So that's when Farm Bureau came in. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
All right, Mr. Fincham, I believe you've got agenda item number 6, which is the request for Pendleton to become a golf cart community. Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah. Mr. Forehand, did you want to make the motion?
Oh, that's anything to talk about? No.
Or if you had any questions. I think Mr. Fincham made an excellent presentation.
I make a motion that we approve Pendleton community becoming a golf cart community. Was there specific language you need to hear?
No, just authorize us to prepare the amendment to Chapter 108 and coordinate with VDOT to ensure the streets qualify.
You do have to, in this particular case, you do have to work with VDOT. It's different than Caroline Pines.
All right, I would authorize county staff to work with VDOT to amend chapter 108 in the county code to add Pendleton to the communities authorized to allow golf carts on the community streets.
Is there a second to that motion? Mrs. Long makes a second. The motion is made by Mr. Forehand to approve the request to amend chapter 108 for Pendleton to become a golf cart community. Second by Mrs. Long. Discussion.
Yes.
Discussion, Mr. Black.
I do want to point out, I am going to vote for this because I think Pendleton is a community where it makes sense for golf carts to exist. I think there are other communities, this is a case by case. I do not want to think that for myself, that because I'm voting for this, that's a setting precedent that I'm going to continue to vote for any community in the region to be a golf cart community, because there are certain communities that I do not believe that golf carts would be safe. I think Pendleton is a community where it kind of fits and makes sense for golf carts. It's already got a golf course. So, I don't have too much of a problem, but we just saw in the news last week, a woman was married, and then 4 hours later down in South Carolina, she was killed on a golf cart 4 hours after she was married. That was national news. So I think it makes sense in certain communities. I think Bowling Green, you guys, it's golf cart in certain areas, but there are certain communities in Caroline that are windy, narrow roads, not wide open, and it doesn't make sense in those areas. They're bisected by a major highway. So in that, very different. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Agreed.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 7 is the proposed increase in the purchasing policy for the county administrator to spend 50 or 75,000 as opposed to 50.
So moved.
Is that Mr. Cully? Great presentation, Mr. Cully. Thank you very much.
Second.
Mr. Black has made the motion. Mrs. Long has made the second. This comes from, of course, obviously inflation, and I believe Chief Loftus had something that cost $70-some thousand, and he had to wait. So, we all voted say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion also carries unanimously. Now that we've increased it, here's Mr. Shebel for agenda item number 8. Proposed purchase over $50,000 for the utility service replacement truck, because ours broke down and now you need another one, but you've got 38,000 that we have to give you, right?
This is the wrong one. That's the second
Oh, that's the next one. Okay.
Yeah, this one here is actually the 2015 service body truck that has a motor blown in it.
Right.
We got an estimate to fix it and looked at the value of that truck, and it didn't meet the requirements really. Made sense to fix it. It really seemed like it was better off as in the budget to be replaced, and it was pulled this year just because of trying to save the county money, and anyhow, it didn't work, so it blew up. So essentially, we've looked at replacing a truck that's about $81,000 to replace truck. We would like to make that a diesel truck instead of a gas truck because it does do a lot of heavy towing. And then we do have to move radios and put emergency lights on it and a ladder rack. So we're asking for $85,000 from the unencumbered fund balance. And as you'll see, this truck has an extensive, service history for maintenance and repairs.
Yeah, and the engine was $20,000-some. I just went by.
11,747.
Okay. Any discussion?
89,000 miles.
This appears to be a have-to-do item. Any discussion, questions? Mrs. Long?
I move that we approve $85,000 from the unencumbered balance toward the purchase of a utility service truck replacement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made by Mrs. Long, seconded by Mr. Underwood to purchase the utility service truck for public utilities. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. Mr. Shebel, you're still here for number 9.
Yes, sir.
This is the truck that...
Yeah, this is a small truck that was in an accident. The insurance company cut us a check for $7,613 as it was total loss. Replacement value for the vehicle is estimated at $39,000 with $1,000 to add lighting to that. So $40,000 less the insurance. So we're requesting the board to authorize $32,387 for that.
Because this is the one that was in an accident that was someone else's fault.
Correct.
But that insurance company said they would just give us replacement.
Well, they said it was it ended up being no fault on either party, supposedly.
Oh.
It was on Ruther Glen Road.
Their insurance said that.
No, nobody got a ticket on either side.
Oh, okay.
And there was a response by the deputies, or did they just exchange numbers and?
Oh, no, they were there, and
They were there?
it was a truck with a trailer coming around the corner, and as you're coming around the corner, the trailer came over a little bit, and our truck was there, and it hit the front of our truck. But he's saying that the road wasn't wide enough for the vehicles, and so it was a no-fault injury.
Maybe he shouldn't have had his
Accident.
trailer on the road, because he could keep it to the side. My thought was, why can't we go after the insurance company to cover the balance instead of taking it out of the pockets of the citizens of the county? But if we don't have,
Yeah, our insurance company would be the one that would normally do that, and they looked at everything and paid
well,
the
yeah,
claim.
they don't want to pay anybody to do it. So, all right, I'll let it go. Just doesn't seem right.
You can't get the value of a new vehicle.
Right.
So all our insurance company could do would go after the 7,000 that they're writing us the 79 that they're writing us a check for. So we were still out of, because I've argued with this with our insurance company before, when like an expensive vehicle, an ambulance or a fire truck's involved in a wreck that's not our fault, and it's a number of years old, but got a number of years of life left. They, here's what all the value, but I can't go find a used fire truck or a used ambulance. I got to, buy a new one, or a patrol car. We have the same problem with patrol car. It's 3 years old, but I can't go find a 3-year-old one to replace it with. I got to buy a new one.
And we don't get
the best we can do.
Yeah, we don't get replacement value insurance because that would cost a lot more.
And they just don't offer that. I mean, it's just weird. And so.
All right, so we don't have.
Just
we don't have
depends
a whole
on the
bunch of choice.
situation. Yeah, I had a friend who took it to court and got replacement for her car because she couldn't find another one like it. But that was quite a few years ago. So thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Okay. Questions on this particular item? If not, a motion would be in order. Is there a motion?
Come on, I spent the last money. Y'all spent some money.
I'll make a motion that we purchase the replacement pickup truck for the utility department and authorize $32,387 for the purchase. And and I guess that's coming out of the unencumbered balance at this point.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Forehand, motion is made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Forehand. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Fincham or Mr. Hughes, we've got 3 first readings. The first one is text 03-2023 to establish development standards for special event facility. First reading.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you may recall probably 6 or 7 months ago, we brought forward an amendment to this to special events facilities that was for a single issue, which was to allow up to 4 public events a year at these special events facilities. The board at that time directed staff or returned the proposed amendment to the Planning Commission, directed staff to work with the commission to come up with additional standards governing the use and operation of these facilities. And tonight you have before you for first reading the standards, 12 standards forwarded to you by the Planning Commission, including standard number 5, which allow up to 4 public events per calendar year, subject to the approval by the board with the issuance of the special exception permit, as well as all the other standards, many of which we already require as part of the use permit, so they would no longer have to be conditions.
Questions now for Mr. Fincham?
I have one.
Mrs. Long?
Number 11, Mike. It says when adjoining a residential property, any outdoor lighting utilized should be source shielded and downward facing with the candle, foot candle of 0.5. And that's standard, but I think it should just be any outdoor. I think you need to take off the adjoining properties because we do try to keep the the night sky light down. So just take off that first section for me, please.
Where was that, Ms. Long? Oh, okay. You want it,
Just when joining a residential property, take that out and make it any outside
oh, okay.
light.
All right. Sound good? You got that, Ms. Finch?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Fincham, in order to have a special events facility, do you already have to have a special exception?
No, these would be the standards that in addition to the general standards for special exception permits, these would be supplemental standards. But you would still be required to obtain a special exception permit from the board.
So you have to do a minimum of this.
At a minimum, you would have to satisfy these standards, plus any other conditions that the board would impose.
Right.
Doesn't this leave out a number of things, though, in terms of what else you'd have to have?
I think we felt that those other requirements could be specific conditions within the special exception permit. So you've got the ability to add to that. You can't subtract from this.
Right.
You've got the ability to add to that.
Okay. I was just thinking of this in addition to a special exception.
Right. Now, these would be your minimum standards for a special exception permit, plus whatever conditions you impose.
Okay. And this would be renewed annually, or would they get this special exception and it's good for 4 years, 4 events a year?
It's kind of up to us.
Well, you might authorize up to 30 events a year or 60, whatever the magic number is that the board chooses. Regardless of that overall number, which would be your private events such as business meetings, weddings, etc., out of whatever that permit total is that the board grants, up to 4 events a year could generally be open to the public. The way the ordinance is written right now, these are private events that are not open to the public.
So they could sell tickets to these events?
That is correct. But they would have to identify the events to you at the time of the granting of the special exception permit, and that would be part of your approval.
Okay.
I didn't see anything in there about restroom facilities or things. That's part of the special exception?
That's part of the special exception, and that is based upon the number of attendees.
That's what I was.
DEQ, okay. All right, how does the board wish to proceed with this? Go to public hearing, have another reading, or send it back to planning commission?
I think go to public hearing. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go to public hearing.
Second.
All right, motion is made to move agenda item number 10, text 03-2023 to public hearing. Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 11, electric vehicle charging center, text 0723 and 0823. Mr. Seeley has a number of questions, Mr. Hughes, so speak quickly.
I will speak quickly, sir. So this is the ordinance amendment to amend the definition section and the B1 section and the M1 section, making electric vehicle charging centers as a permitted use. So we have received inquiries from a company that wishes to install a charging center in the county. The use is not defined in our ordinance. So this amendment creates the definitions with standards. The two definitions are electric vehicle charging station, which would be an individual station, and then electric vehicle charging centers, which would be a number of stations specifically as a use for charging only. Right now, a facility, Wawa, Sheetz, any other retail operation can put in a charging station as an accessory use. So
they can.
Yes. So this would allow
I didn't know that.
the larger facilities to, come in and be here.
Just
a separate
just charging.
standalone
A standalone use.
business
Yes.
that provides that service.
Yes.
And I believe there's a application that's the genesis for this particular.
There has been an
text amendment.
inquiry, hasn't been an application, but there's been a serious inquiry. And so if you notice, as a part of the definitions, we created standards so that they'd have to follow the standards here.
Okay.
Chairman.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Mr. Seeley.
I have a number of questions with this. First of all, the infrastructure that we typically have in Caroline is not new. And what is going to be what is the permitting process that we're going to require for some entity to put in, for example, a charging center? Because the electric load that we're in, I'm going to use Bowling Green as an example. We didn't have power last night. Power comes a long ways and we're already iffy at the end of that. Mm-hmm. So what requirements are we going to place on any organization that's going to come in, and what sort of survey are they going to have to do with either Rappahannock Electric or Dominion to ensure that A, the transformers can handle it, the lines aren't so old that when they start drawing, because when you see charging number 3, mm-hmm. the intensity of that actual drawdown is going to be a real challenge for a number of components in the actual system that brings power to, and I'll use Bowling Green as an example. We have not done, nor has probably Dominion done, any sort of survey on that, and can't tell you what load that's going to be able to carry. And I don't want to have everybody losing power because you've got a charging center and, you know, you hit the perfect storm, 100-degree day, a whole bunch of people traveling, and they set up with these high-end charging stations and everybody plugs in and nobody's got power. So have we thought about what that is going to entail for permitting to actually build it? First question.
Sure, that goes the same process that any business would go through to construct a site that's going to have power demands. I mean, that's a normal part of the site plan process.
Well, I agree with you, but I've got a house that doesn't have a water connection right now that went through a process. What I don't want to see is that process not happen. And what is the sign-off process going to be for that? Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Seeley, the Rappahannock Electric is on our technical review committee and automatically gets a copy of any site plan that's submitted to the county for their review and comment related to that site plan. So just like a subdivision or anything else, REC is in the review loop to comment on commercial application.
REC and Dominion Power.
Principally REC. If a project is in a Dominion area, Dominion would be sent an application as well. 99 point whatever % of our projects are in REC's service area.
Yeah, there's just a little small strip north of Bowling Green.
And if we talked about fire suppression for some of this, I mean, I'd like to know what the chief's thoughts are when you set up a charging center. The location of those is going to be interesting as it relates to where our fire apparatuses are, and what is the plan? Are we going to, Chief, are we going to come up with a plan for how we're going to actually handle a vehicle that actually ends up in that situation at a charging station here? Because I've not seen a lot of success in this.
Not a lot of success in electric vehicle fires, period. Our concern, moreover, is potential storage. So the charging station by itself is not potential. It's pulling off the grid to charge these cars. The cars that are sitting there, whether they're there or on the interstate, is not a real large concern for us. If we look at battery storage in general, that's where our concern lies as we look at other development. But as far as charging stations, we've been pretty problematic, pretty problem-free around the country with those. So
because that's
we're talking 100 cars together charging.
Well, even if you've got 10, we've seen issues, and I will tell you that charging lithium-ion batteries in particular, just the charging station alone, standing idle, not charging anything, we're now seeing get warm, get hot. I'm just looking for how we're gonna, spacing for this. What are we gonna have different construction standards for this than you do for, let's say, a gas station? Are they gonna be exactly the same?
I believe that will fall under Kevin and code, what the code is permitting. For us
I
to
would-
enforce it unless we change it in our ordinances.
I would really like to see some of the details, just because I know the problems that we're having with batteries in general, and one of those catches fire here, it'll become your problem before anybody else's. And do we have a plan? Is there a course of action that should be taken in the event that happens? Have we looked at that?
From the standpoint of any electric vehicle fire, yeah, we've looked at how we're going to handle those. The staff is being trained on that. General Assembly passed some legislation that all firefighters across the Commonwealth need to have electric vehicle training. We run into these cars today in accidents. So individually, the cars don't concern me as much as large scale potential energy storage. Each car, yes, has a battery, has a lithium ion battery. There's not much we can do with it. If it goes thermal runaway, we fill the car up with water, we leave it separated from everything else, and we hope for the best. Because we can't cool the battery because we can't get to it. It's under the car, it's under the carriage.
Right,
It's the prescribed action. Disconnecting those, we have plenty of education on that, how you separate the high voltage system from the 12 volt system in a car wreck. I'm not too concerned with the charging stations. I'll just put it out there. That's going to be a normal threat for us across the country. But when we look at other things down the road that talk about battery storage, that's where our concern lies from development.
Okay, I'm just concerned in the effect of, you know, the grid here is not, the infrastructure here for the grid's not new. Most of what we have is fairly old, and power lines have a life, and sometimes they don't get changed. And I have never seen REC sign off on anything, so that was news to me. I didn't know that they did any sort of technical review for, I mean, I know for some of the things that we ask for power for, they do, but I've personally never seen with the checkoff sheet or what it entails or how long it takes. I just want to ensure that we don't approve something that then puts part of the county out of power because the perfect storm happens, and it's something that happens not frequently, but often enough that it's irritating, and it could take a year or two for REC or even Dominion to even fix it because of the lag time in being able to get what they need to do that.
So Mr. Sailors, typically these facilities will have their own transformers. So the power load and all that is going to be.
No, but the power to them, I mean, we don't have anything that regularly generates power. So all of those transmission lines that come here, and I've talked to several folks that work in this industry, and they're very concerned when they start to see large volumes of these and what that presents as issues for all of their infrastructure. So that's why I'm asking, and that's why I'm just apprehensive when I see it. I know it's coming. So if a convenience store wants one charging station, can they do that now?
As an accessory use.
But only one. How many can they do as an accessory use?
We don't have a number right now. They could do 10. I mean, we've seen typically when they come in, I'll give you an example. Wawa typically has put 5 or 6 in at a spot. Walmart is now putting in banks of 8 or 9 at a time. So, I mean, they're not a proliferation. This ordinance allows it to be a standalone use. So if someone came in and wanted to do it as an accessory use, they could add 8, 10, or 12 as long as they maintain their parking requirement that those spaces would, potentially occupy.
There's a Wawa, I think, on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, 1 in 17.
There's one in Spotsylvania at Cosner's Corner that put in.
Yeah,
8.
that's what I'm thinking. That's 8.
I think it's 8.
Yeah, I've seen them. I haven't been there in a while, but I know I've seen it.
5.
There's one in Dalvin. So
how many, when we talk about a charging center, how many are we talking about?
So the company that inquired mentioned 20.
And that's all it'll be, is just a charging station? It won't be a convenience store, it won't be...
There's already a convenience store in the location that they're looking at. There's already several convenience stores There's one existing, there's another one coming, and so there are already retail establishments in the area. They can walk to those. Typically, that's what has happened. If another example is at Virginia Center by Chili's, there's a bank of 18 or 19 charging stations there. The drivers pull up, they plug their car in, they walk to Panera, they walk to Chili's, they walk to the other retail establishments in the area. I think what you'll see in the future is I think you'll see these facilities come along and they'll be essentially convenience centers within to themselves, where they'll try to, Tesla or any other company will try to capture that retail dollar on their site rather than have them walk off that site.
Right. Well, yeah, or an hour.
Well, the fast ones now are like 18 minutes.
It depends on where you are, your charge need. What drivers have told me is that the lower the battery is when they come to charge, the faster it charges, which is an anomaly, but
Not a tuning.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
Okay.
So do we want to get a question?
Yes.
Do you have a question, Mr. Underwood? Okay, Ms. Forehand?
One thing in the charging area, it mentioned generators, but I don't see any noise element. If they're going to run a generator,
They make no noise.
no, I'm talking about a generator as like a backup for their.
Yeah.
If it's their business, they're putting a lot of capital in. They might decide to put a diesel generator that's.
You're saying if the power goes out, they've got a generator.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Should there be any muffling standard, noise standard, or something like that included in something like this?
Yeah, that's something we could certainly consider as what the noise level should be.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, with a lot of convenience stores now, one of the things that we should look at, we'll probably start to ask them to do, is put in generators. Because if you've seen in natural disaster situations, the grid goes down, you need to pump fuel. A lot of the older stations don't have generators, so you don't have the ability to pump fuel. So
I've gotten gas out of a hand pump before, and the gas sitting on a bucket over top the plate during a snowstorm, but
that was in the 40s.
Actually, it was in the 80s. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That was my
yeah, that is something to consider.
Mr. Underwood, you had a question? You good? How does the board wish to handle this? You want to send it back for more information or move to public hearing? Public hearing?
Yeah.
Mr. Underwood says public hearing?
Would he be able to add any incidental language regarding muffling or if there's something we can clean up?
He can actually add that before it goes to public hearing.
It's not been advertised.
Okay,
yes.
all right, great.
So if Mr. Hughes, if you would add something like that or some consideration there, and according to Mr. McKenzie, as long as it's not a substantial change, we won't have to re-advertise. Right? Yeah. So we're going to do it now before we go to public hearing. But who's going to make the motion to move to public hearing? Mr. Underwood, was that you making the motion to move to public hearing? And Mr. Forehand, you were making the second?
I can, yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Oh, wait, are you here for 12 or is that Mr. Fincham? First reading, yeah, we have two great people. First reading for Carmel Church Station is urban development area.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your first reading tonight is on a comprehensive plan amendment related to Chapter 8 of the comprehensive plan, as well as the future land use map for Carmel Church. The proposed amendment entails 4 different items. Item number 1, with respect to the land use map, was to identify the area to the east of the Carmel Church, northeast of the Carmel Church growth area around MC Dean as an area where we want to encourage research and technology uses in conjunction with MC Dean and the activities that they undertake at their facility. The second amendment was to extend the Carmel Church area boundary to the west along Jericho Road out towards Mount Airy and Hewlett Road and designate that area as either planned innovation, research, and technology or future planned innovation and research and technology. And that was in support of the Valco rezoning application related to technology park and data center. That zoning application is not yet before you, but it required a comprehensive plan amendment in order to support that rezoning application. The third component is the redesignation of Carmel Church Station as an urban development area. The county first adopted that designation, I believe it was around 2010, and state code requires us to redesignate our UDAs roughly every 10 years. And the final amendment would be to amend the language in Chapter 8, which is the land use chapter, to include a descriptor of the planned innovation, research, and technology district. As the board is aware, we're actually working on a zoning amendment in the planned development regulations, specifically for technology uses such as data centers and other technology uses. Data centers are currently allowed in the B1 district with a special exception permit, as well as in the M1 and planned industrial park districts. Those districts also allow a number of other uses that may not be appropriate around data centers. And those districts really were intended for projects with perhaps just one or two facilities, not some of the larger facilities such as the Valco application that you will see in the future. The Planning Commission held its public hearing at the March 23rd meeting, and they forwarded the proposal to the board with a recommendation of approval, except for the designation of the area in the western portion of the growth area along Jericho Road. They did not recommend that boundary expansion as part of their application or as part of their recommendation to the board. They did remove that. We're now at the point where, with the first reading, the board ultimately needs to decide your path forward with the comprehensive plan amendment. You can go forward with the application as originally drafted. You can go forward with the application as recommended by the Planning Commission, and you can make modifications as you deem appropriate related to the comprehensive plan amendment prior to you advertising for the public hearing. You do have 150 days from the date of the referral to take action on the comprehensive plan amendment as the board deems appropriate. You also have the ability to refer it back to the Planning Commission if you so desire.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. I can see this one's going to take a little bit more time to study. So I think if you have any additional information or between now and our next meeting, the 24th, I think, the board can send whatever concerns or questions they have directly to you.
Yes, sir.
And then we could look at it at the 24th and see if we're ready to go to public hearing.
That would be fine.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I think that was, yeah, I think that's, I was going to say that. So I agree with that.
Motion to continue the first reading?
We will accept the motion to continue the first reading. Was that your motion, Mr.
Yes,
Underwood?
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Seeley and Mrs. Long. Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Fincham. We covered agenda item number 12A already. Mr. McKenzie was supposed to remind me of something, and I have no idea what it was.
Mr. Finch.
Oh, to give you authorization to proceed with the,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, coming out of closed session, we would like authorization to proceed with the performance agreement associated with the county's water line project, expansion project. So I prepared a motion to propose for you. The motion would be to authorize the county administrator to execute the performance agreement with MC Dean Inc. and Swans Corner Realty LLC for the water line expansion project, and to accept the associated deed of easement for the water line and pay fair market value of $31,700 for said easement.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Mr. McKenzie, and Mr. Seeley repeated the motion exactly like he said it. Mr. Black made the second. Discussion on that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously, and thank you for your work on that project, Mr. McKenzie. Mr. Cully, we have used the last one for the most part, informational calendar items. Let's do, well, next steps for the budget process, let's do that first, and then we'll figure out where we are with the other things.
As you may remember, we need to adopt the budget. With that would include a number for the transfer to the schools. They take that number and go back and then provide us their categories by category. Because they've given us a category breakdown, but it's got their number in it. So once you determine the number to the schools and whatever else you're going to do with our budget, you adopt that budget. They then go back and they have to have time to prepare all that and then have their board adopt it and come back to us with those categories, for which then we will then have an appropriation resolution for you to appropriate the money so that July 1, both the county and or the schools have the ability to continue to pay bills and those type of things. So my recommendation is as soon as you can, and I would hope at the 24th would be able to adopt the budget number, not appropriate, so that we can give that in writing to the schools. Here's your transfer number, and they can then move on with that and bring that back to us in June.
Mr. Chairman, my question is, why can't we adopt?
Yes, sir, Mr. Underwood.
Why can't we do that tonight?
Doing that tonight would mean that we're
If you know that you could do it, certainly do it tonight.
We're going to accept Mr. Cully's budget as is, without anything else?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not.
Mr. Forehand? You ready? You ready to do it tonight?
He's not.
Well,
that's why I was recommending because you do it on the 24th, because if you wait till end of June, the 13th is our June meeting, they're going to have to have a special meeting. We're going to have a special meeting, and we've already got the 27th booked for so you can find another night
for Farm Bureau,
so we can do the appropriation, which will be really late. So I would encourage you to try to determine what you want to do by the 24th.
We're going to try to do the 24th. The 24th, which is our next meeting on Wednesday, and that's where we're going to come together and figure out what the final number is for the school appropriation.
Right.
Which is really the only thing we have to determine.
Or whatever you want to do with the budget, and you adopt our budget. But then with that, then we go back and prepare the appropriation resolution and have it all ready when they give us in a day, because they'll meet the Monday before we meet on Tuesday, give us what those categories are, and we'll be there have it all ready other than that, and we'll get that ready on Tuesday and be back on the 13th of June for the appropriation resolution, and we'll be ready to start the budget in July 1. And with one thing, we will start our salaries on the next pay period instead of trying to do calculation back to July 1. So that, Tamika, you may not know off the top of your head, but that may be a few days after July 1, but it is very difficult, especially with fire and rescue, and these people that work over the weekends, to figure out part of their pay is at one thing and part of them is at another. So we're going to start that on a pay period, which starts on a Sunday. So whenever that pay period is, in the July timeframe, we'll.
So there'll be a really minor impact on the budget savings because
Could be
they'll
some
have 3 or
savings
4
to get-
days they
Could
won't
be
get.
3 or 4 days that they're paid at their old rate, but I don't
Okay.
remember what that is. But we'll prepare the appropriation resolution for that.
Well, first, we're confirming item number 2 on the information, which is our next step for the budget is the 24th, where we're going to actually give you the final budget numbers after much discussion, I'm sure.
Right.
Okay. Having said that, that's how the process for the budget will work out. Now, the other thing we have is a consideration of joint meeting with the school board, which I wanted to target the 24th, but I think they had some issues.
They're on
It's graduation.
So, no, the 23rd is graduation.
23rd is graduation, why we moved it to the Wednesday.
The 23rd was their graduation, but they just gave Mr. Cully the 5th, 6th, or 7th for a 2-hour meeting
5th, 6th, or 7th of what?
of June.
What?
For a joint meeting. That's what
That's
they
when
just
they
gave
could
Mr.
do it.
Cully. They could do it. We were targeting 24th before our budget adoption.
Oh, so we're gonna adopt the budget on the 24th.
We are going to adopt the budget for the most part, give Mr. Cully in particular a transfer number. That's why I wanted to try to meet before the 24th, before we did that.
What about,
Well, the meeting after that, we could have any time because it's irrelevant at that point.
you want to meet with them before, because like, yeah, meeting on the 5th would be irrelevant.
I am only repeating what I have.
Well, I can't answer for June just yet, but I mean, we want to meet in June, that's fine.
No, I mean, we need to meet with them beforehand.
We had the 24th. They've asked for a 2-hour meeting. I'm not sure what they want to discuss in that 2 hours, since our purpose would be the final budget number. They may have some other things they want to share with us that conceivably could wait till later, but you know, I understand. I think some of their members or 1 or 2 of their members couldn't make it on the 24th. I don't know if that's what they said.
Talked to her that long.
Oh, that's right. You did it at the 2-on-2. Was it 1 or 2?
She was here, but she must be gone. Nah, y'all.
They just said some.
Who couldn't meet?
What about can they meet on the 23rd?
No, the 23rd is their graduation.
20 graduation, that's right.
They didn't
What about
say, they didn't say which members couldn't meet. And she didn't say tonight when I asked her, she said what they had agreed to, they could do any of that full week of June. Preferred those dates I gave you in that text, so.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm confused. Are we looking at doing a 2-on-2 joint meeting? Or are you talking full board meeting?
You're talking full board, board on board meeting. Had been proposed to them for the 24th at like 4:30 or something, but they cannot make that.
Because it was my intention to meet with them before we adopted the budget.
Yes.
I understand.
So we could hear whatever we had to, but
I am going to be out of town. Like, I've got to go to a graduation in Florida. I'm going to be out of town from the 16th through the 21st.
16th of May?
Yeah, because I've got a graduation to go.
Okay.
I mean, can we do the 15th of May? I know that's next week.
We don't know that they can do.
We don't know
any
if
of
that
those
works for
days. They said
them,
May was
and-
so busy for all them that May was just tough, but I didn't talk to her.
Well, I mean, if they want to meet before we do a budget presentation, then we've got certain dates that we can fit in.
No, I'm not.
And- Yeah, no, I'm not trying to be rude, Mr. Colley. I'm just saying the 15th or the 22nd. Problem is 22nd is GBRC meeting.
And plus, they probably got with graduation, something going on for.
22nd is
Ready for graduation, 22nd.
Yeah, they're not, yeah, they're graduating on 23rd.
well, no, we moved the budget thing to Wednesday. We're kind of ready to go, except for that last number of, is it the same? Is it more? What is it? And that's where we all are. So that's the only thing we have to discuss. Mr. McKenzie. Well, I have an idea. If we recess to 4:30 on the 24th, and they can't make it, our recessed meeting just disappears?
You just adjourn this meeting, yeah.
No, I'm gonna recess to 4:30 on the 24th.
Right, and then on the 24th, if you don't need it, you just gavel it in and say,
we're adjourning.
Oh, so I still gotta be here at 4:30 if nobody else is?
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
And you recess to that.
Well, that's really nice, because Clay won't be here till 5 minutes to 6.
And you could use that time to work out the number so that it's, you know, that you have some idea what you want to do with the budget as a budget work session, joint work session with the school members, that maybe 4 of them show up.
Okay,
But
well,
for them to have a quorum, they got to at least have 4, and I can't answer for that.
but I mean,
They
we
couldn't
don't
come.
have to worry about them having a quorum. We just have to worry about them having some input.
Well, that could be the superintendent.
Okay.
But I don't know that she can come. So I'm not making any promises for.
Yeah,
But if you did recess to the 24th, you could use that time yourselves to discuss where the number is, because I'm not sure that if I had to pick where that number is that you think, I don't think I know where it is, so.
I think that would be true for a great majority of people.
Right, so, and so it might be useful time, is all I'm saying.
That's the plan that'll work. I mean, because that's what we were looking for. If they can get a couple of people, or 1 or 2, I'd like to have them all, but we have to give them an opportunity. That's all we're doing. I know. As long as that work for you?
1:30?
But I'll be the only one here at 4:30. Okay.
And if we know they can't, can't attend, we could let you know, and if you don't have a quorum, then the meeting's not there anyway.
Right.
So we could let you know to come later.
That was a good point. Okay. All right, well, that's a way to get around that. The last thing is, and I guess we could discuss on the 24th when to have the transportation meeting with Mr. Hughes.
Correct. We can look on our calendar to see what dates may work with
Okay.
some folks too.
Let's try to do a couple of Wednesday things. If we can.
Yeah,
all right. I'm sad to say we've reached the end of the agenda.
Almost. Information just in case. We've
You have
got
some other stuff.
The 18th of this month at 5:30, business appreciation at the Barns at Mattaponi Springs. So please mark your calendars. Let economic development plan to attend. It's Thursday, the 18th. So
he's out of town.
Thursday a week. 5:30.
And you know the Barns are on Panola Road.
Panola Golf course.
Past the golf course.
Then we have a retirement for Kathy Hoskins, who's been at Fire and Rescue. That's 12 to 5 at Fire and Rescue at their conference room. Then we have a board meeting at 4:30. We're going to recess to that. That's on the 24th. And then Mr. Underwood has a constituent meeting the next night at Meadow Event Park Pavilion. And then Monday, the 29th, obviously, is Memorial Day. Offices are closed. In June, we meet on the 13th. We're, because of the way June starts on Thursday, we're way into the month when we meet on June 13th. June 19th, offices are closed for state and federal holiday, Juneteenth. And then right after that, the fair starts on the 21st, the local agricultural fair, 21st through the 24th. And then the 27th at 6 p.m., Farm Bureau dinner, and that will be in Port Royal at the fire department, I'm pretty sure,
Yes, sir.
where it's always historically been. So, and that's all I have on the calendar at this time.
Also, there'll be a Memorial Day service on the courthouse lawn at 11, right?
At 11, yes.
And that's the
So-
26th, correct?
The 29th, Monday, the
But not-
29th.
Oh, it's not.
It is a Memorial Day service on Memorial
I was
Day.
in June, sorry. Let me get back
That's
to
all
the
right.
right thing. Yeah, Memorial Day, I'd already mentioned that. Yeah, we're
Right.
closed, yes. 11,
11 a.m. courthouse lawn.
Public Works know about that?
I don't know, but we will, I just nailed everything down, so.
Now.
They do now.
I know the sheriff knows because he and I have talked about
Mr.
it.
Scully, one question. I thought of having a Memorial Day movie in here, like free to the public and all that. What would we have to do?
We'd have to have an attendant.
This screen works.
Yeah,
right?
you better be careful on copyright stuff too when you do mass
Yeah,
production.
mass production of a movie.
Mass production movies. Schools are now starting to get in trouble with that. Like if you show, we have to be careful for like history clubs, if we let a bunch of people in to show a movie. If it's above a certain
Yeah, it's
people,
like
yeah.
copyright stuff.
Copyright law.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
mean,
a
if
movie
it's-
projection.
Yeah, I know you have concerns if you charge.
No,
Well,
even if you're just showing
if
for
you're
free.
free.
Even if it's free, we couldn't do it on the courthouse lawn with certain movies. We had a sponsor was willing to do it, and we had a very slim picking on what we could use.
All right.
Sorry. Unless it's in the public domain.
Can we go
so to
ahead and
speak.
ask Charlie to put together a letter of support for this group? Do we want
Yes.
to do that?
Yes.
Mr. Cully, I think the board would be in agreement, but I'll leave that you write a letter of support for the,
Right. The lady that spoke at,
Evan
yes,
Forbes.
we will work toward that, yes.
And I guess you and Mr. Howard are gonna see if there's any funding that could go along with their program.
Correct. Yeah, we'll bring that back hopefully the next meeting.
All right, that's it. I think closing board comments. We did the closed meeting. Closing board comments. Mr. Underwood. Mrs. Long.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sealy.
No, sir.
Ms. Black.
Nope.
Mr. Forehand.
None, sir.
All right, I'm going to make one is just repeating the fact that the board is looking into ways that we can help teachers by creating a fund that would help them not use their own personal money for school supplies. And I did touch base with the executive director of Caroline's Promise and the finance director for the county. So I think we're going to work out the details shortly, and maybe we'll be able to
You
bring
want help, or
something
you
back.
going to take care of it?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Mr.
If there are any questions or
Mr. Thomas, I think on that one thing, and I think that's a wonderful idea. I think one thing on that, if there's a way that could also, I guess if it's through Caroline's Promise, we put that out there where people could donate to it too. Because I think a lot of people in the public would want to donate to something like that.
Well, the teachers have a Amazon account that they send out to the student parents, and you can click on their link for their Amazon account of what they want in the classroom. So that exists throughout the school system, and parents are well aware of that and well versed in it. So this would be in addition, this would be something from the county side in my discussion with Mr. Thomas.
And I think that's a great idea too, Mr. Black, is to make sure we allow citizens to donate.
Yeah.
But
if they want to, I mean, if it can't hurt, if citizens want to donate, then they should have a right to. So, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing we've all seen. We all saw teachers come and say, I'm spending my own money, and, you know, we can't directly impact their salary per se. So this will be a way to help them keep their salary. But all right, we will work on that, and I'll make sure all the details get out. Somebody told me the devil was in the details, so we'll make sure we try to get the details ironed out. But that's the goal, and we'll start telling people that's our goal and get some more comments. Nothing else. We will take a motion to recess to 4:30 on the 24th.
Second.
Okay, that was my motion.
I'm sorry.
That was my motion. Mrs. Long makes the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. All opposed, nay. We stand recessed and didn't do bad at 9